Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. We're really excited to bring you this live episode on a Saturday evening. We had a couple topics we were going to talk about and kind of chop up into a few separate videos. We thought, you know what? Sometimes you just got to give the people what they want, Glenn. You just got to give them what they want. No, I'm totally kidding. But no, we decided to just turn it on because we want to interact with you guys, go live, talk to you about a couple things. Obviously in the NFL, we have free agency coming up, which is a big deal, and we're ramping up for that, identifying some guys. But we have the draft to prepare for and some other things. But we're going to kind of start with free agency. But before we start, while you guys are hopping in, I'm sure a lot of you guys are already subscribed. But if you're new to the channel, we talk all things Ravens and NFL headlines. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, interact with us in the chat, and hit the like button, turn on your notifications, all that cool stuff. But Glenn, let's talk about. Why don't we kind of start with the context of the last video, kind of explain what we did for those of you maybe that didn't see it regarding free agency, and then kind of move on to what we wanted to talk about today and revisiting it with some cuts and things like that happening recently.
Yeah, well, Jimmy, if you could throw a comment up, make sure that the comments are working.
Absolutely. I will do that.
Yeah, so we went into, we've done a video talking about free agents, unrestricted free agents, but we also know that typically the Ravens aren't too active in the normal free agent market. Typically, they look for casualties, guys that were cut and not just letting their contracts expire, because guys that are cut do not count against the comp pick formula and do not prevent the Ravens from getting comp picks if their free agents sign elsewhere. So there's a new one that's added to the list here recently. I think some were surprised, others not so surprised. But right tackle, a familiar name, a former Raven, Rick Wagner, former fifth round pick, I believe, for the Baltimore Ravens, who most recently was with the Green Bay Packers and signed, of course, that monster. I think he was the highest paid right tackle at the time in the league when he signed with Detroit just after his rookie deal expired with the Ravens. He was just cut to open up some cap space, possibly angling to try and get JJ or whatever. Who knows? But they did make some cuts that definitely freed up some space for the Packers. But Ricky Wagner is now available. And, of course, he plays right tackle. We know Orlando Brown Jr. has made it clear that he wants out of Baltimore to play left tackle for someone else, leaving a hole at right tackle. So, Jimmy, what would you think of a reunion from Ricky Wagner coming back to the Ravens?
Yeah, I would love it because, number one, and this might be an underrated piece of this, but when a player comes back, I think it shows that they trust the franchise. That they're obviously willing to play again, that things didn't end on a bad note. And I think that builds a lot of goodwill with other free agents that are out there looking around at other teams. I think it's a big piece of it. But number two, strictly talking football, do you happen to have his PFF grade or rank or something like that up in front of you? Because I'm pretty sure he did pretty well, right, last year.
Yeah, he was the 23rd rated overall tackle. That's including left and right tackle. And interestingly enough, one spot ahead of the guy he may be replacing, Orlando Brown Jr., who finished 24th.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and almost one of those things where it makes you wonder. There's a saying that things happen for a reason, right? And when you see that, you think, this just makes too much sense. So if we can get what we want for Orlando and bring a guy back that's a veteran, can add some leadership to that line, is not the youngest, but there's definitely some young guys on the interior and probably going to be some additional young guys added to that line in the draft, whether at center or maybe at right guard. I think it would be awesome. Based on the fact that his performance hasn't taken a crazy hit, I'm sure at this point in his career, he's not going to get a haul. And I guess it makes sense that they let him go, considering what's a Bakhtiari making, like 24 a year.
Oh yeah, I think he's the highest paid tackle in the league.
Yeah, somebody had to get the axe, right? So I'm sure it was just financial.
As somebody pointed out in the comments, and I'm looking into it more, Ricky is contemplating retirement apparently after this release. So hopefully that could make our entire argument null and void. But it's not official yet. He is contemplating it. So, we'll see.
We did it with Steve Smith. We talked him out of it.
Yeah. And there's obviously if you hear there's a $6 million paycheck waiting for you, it might change your mind. And also he may, accept a contract back with the Ravens more so than going to a team that they have no familiarity with. But that's definitely interesting. But another reason I wanted to bring this guy up is because, I was commenting with someone recently And they pointed me towards an article in the Ravens Wire that had a list of all 48, I believe it is, comp picks for the Ravens in their history, and mentioned basically was just showing disappointment and saying, look, all 48 of these guys, none of them turned out to be Pro Bowlers. None of them turned out to be special players. And I looked at the list and I found quite a few good players. And I just wanted to remind everyone, who are our previous comp picks, how good they've been. And just remember, a comp pick isn't going to be a first or second round pick. So it's not like you're getting a top 10 guy, a Pro Bowl guy that, right out of college. So, but I do want to go over a few names with you.
Yeah. And let me add some color really quick before we go over those names. I think to add to your point, Glenn, is that the reason that I think that this is important for Ravens fans is because I feel like every year as the top tier free agents get taken off the board and they're not associated with the Ravens, right? Which usually how it goes 9 times out of 10, fans, I always hear the same thing. When are we going to get a top tier free agent? When are we going to go out there and make that big signing? This, that, and the other. Number one, I just want to say that the Ravens every year spend to the max. So it's not like we're hoarding money like the Jags, the Jets, the Browns. Every year we spend to the max. Number one. Number two, every time we bring in a guy, like Glenn said, we are losing a comp pick. So it's not only about bringing in the talent, but it's also about the talent that you're going to lose out the door. So that's kind of where I agree with you 100%. I'm glad we're going over this list because you have to think, okay, if I bring in this tier one type guy, I got to pay him a ton of money, but then I lose a guy like X, which is kind of the list that we're going to go over here. So yeah, definitely really important because it's not just about the name you bring in, but it's about what you lose in financial flexibility and compensatory picks.
Yep. And we all know that it's good to have Pro Bowlers, but you're never going to have a team full of Pro Bowlers. You need other guys that are quality that can fill out the roster. So I wanted to get into a couple of those names. Now, there's a couple names on here that if you're a younger or a newer Ravens fan, you may not recognize. So I'll breeze through some of those, even though, these guys were important contributors to the young franchise. But Edwin Mulantalo, Jimbo, I know you have a soft spot for Edwin. You like the guy. He was a heck of a player for the Ravens. And
my first Ravens autograph I ever got.
That's right.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he made a couple Pro Bowls, right?
I'm not sure. I don't have his stats in front of me, but I know one thing. He was a quality player, and you can win with a guy like that on your O-line. There's no doubt about it. Chester Taylor, another familiar name, who was a really nice third down back and ended up having a pretty long career. Ovi Muhaley, one of the better fullbacks in Ravens history that I'm sure a lot of people kind of forget about. Sam Cook, definitely the best punter in Ravens history, but one of the better punters of this last, 10, 15 years, how long he's been on the team, but certainly one of the better punters. And then LaRon McClain, a guy that went from fullback, turned into a pretty darn good running back, shut down Cowboys Stadium, and was really a fan favorite in his brief time here in Baltimore, and a quality player.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple more for you that, and I'm kind of jumping around at this point, but I want to focus on fullbacks. This is like, where fullbacks make their hay. Kyle Juszczyk, compensatory pick, and look, he's a Pro Bowler, multi-time Pro Bowler, guys. Staying with fullback, if I'm not mistaken here. Well, I guess Pat Ricard was an undrafted rookie, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he doesn't count. But Ryan Jensen, a compensatory pick.
Yep.
Became the highest paid center in his contract with the Bucs and is now a Super Bowl winner. You talked about this guy early in the show, Ricky Wagner.
Yep.
Got a huge contract from Detroit and was a comp pick. So that's a couple more. I think that what we're trying to reiterate here, Pernell McPhee. I guess I'm taking all the good ones here.
Nick Boyle.
Yeah, I say I'm taking all the good ones, and then you turn around.
Boyle's quality. How about Bradley Bozeman, who turned into a real stable force in the middle of our line, and is looking to probably get an extension here in a second contract.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of guys on this list, and even Kenneth Dixon had stints, right? Like he had stints and moments, and he showed that he could play. But yeah, I think that the point that we're trying to reiterate is that there's a lot of value in these comp picks, and maybe not with other teams, but definitely with the Ravens who know how to draft.
Yeah.
Right. So that's crucial because, like you said at the beginning, Glenn, it's not all about Super Bowl superstars, but in a sport like the NFL, I don't think having just a top heavy roster. I don't think I know that having just a top heavy roster doesn't get the job done. Yep. Say what you want about Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. Tom Brady had a squad.
And they remain relatively healthy.
Right. So
a lot of times comes down to that. Who's the healthiest at the end?
Right. Absolutely. So, you know,
they're the deepest, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. They're eating whatever Tom eats down there now. So they're staying healthy.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he's letting people over his mansion and visit the what is it, the Fountain of Youth, but they only get a little bit. They don't have full access to
That's
it.
Right. That's right.
He looks younger now than he did when he was.
They
drafted.
get TB10 treatment, not TB12.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, certainly. I think that's really important to build out our depth. So, guys, comp picks are important. It's not all about the sexy name, as I think, at least what I feel is important to remember as free agency is ramping up. The rumor mill is going crazy, but certainly something to keep in mind, because there are some quality players that we get out of the compensatory picks. And right now it looks like the Ravens are going to get 2, most likely. I don't think that Unique is going to return. I don't think that Judon is going to return unless you think otherwise.
No, I think that's correct. And we could be in line for some later ones if Bowser chooses to sign elsewhere. Yeah, I think he would be the only other one that I can think of off the top of my head that would be, well, unless Gus. I mean, look, if Gus ends up leaving, then we would get the whatever tender is placed on him.
Yeah, I heard that an extension could finally be in line for Gus Edwards, who's no longer going to be playing on a year-by-year deal, because what they're equating his value to is a second-round tender.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, like we said, he has no more value anywhere else than he does here. So,
but the reason I say that is because at that pay, it makes more sense to give him a multi-year deal. His cap number would be more friendly than if they were to pay him. Do you see what I'm saying? They were to pay him this year at a second-round tender. So certainly I'm excited for Gus 35 to see him for the next 3 to 5 years. Here in Baltimore.
Don't count your chickens. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, anything could happen. You know, he could fail a physical. No.
Yeah, exactly.
The Ravens and their phantom failed physicals.
Yeah, I see that somebody's asking about. You remember I sent you that Adam Schefter tweet when he tweeted out a picture of the document discussing the salary cap floor being set at 180 million. Yeah. And it caused a little bit of confusion because some people thought that was the salary cap. And of course that is the salary floor. So teams must spend to that floor. So he asked, do you think that now the floor of the salary cap has been established? Do you think a trade for OBJ will start going in the motion? Honestly, I thought it would have, I thought, you know, it's kind of encouraging to me that it's taken this long, because it tells me, or it makes me think there's probably multiple suitors and they're trying to let them kind of outbid each other, because I thought, you know, we'd start seeing, or at least hearing more about it already. I think it's taken longer than I was expecting, longer than I predicted. So yeah, I'm hoping that we hear something soon. I mean, look, we're always thirsty for news. I didn't, you know, when it's originally broke, I didn't want them to trade my goodness, Orlando Brown. I do it every time. Since people start saying OBJ, I say that. I didn't want us to trade Orlando Brown, but I think at this point, it looks like he's pretty firm on his stance, and I think they kind of have to. So I'm hopeful it happens sooner than later.
Yeah, and one other thing I just want to mention, Omar Jai, I get that the Kansas City Chiefs are top heavy, but it only reemphasizes my point that they were exposed as soon as they had injuries on the offensive line, because they had no one that was suitable to even, I mean, suitable, serviceable, average, any of those words to just think about. It's the biggest game of your life, and you have one job: block the man in front of you for 60 minutes. Like,
that guy that you have to block is the size of a refrigerator and can move like a dancer. Like, you're simplifying it, but it's much.
But my point is that you see what I'm saying, though, right?
But I think it's okay to be top heavy if you can somehow stay healthy. But that's a big if going through a 16-game regular season in the NFL. So,
and if you're gonna be top heavy, you gotta land on comp picks. Right. Because how else are you going to pay guys? You know, I mean, you don't have money to pay guys. Yep. So I understand your point in that they are top heavy, but I think that the Super Bowl wasn't even a competitive game. It was one of the boringest games of the year, because there was no.
Yeah, the only thing that kept it competitive is that we know KC has come back in every game.
Right. If it were any other team.
For something to happen. Exactly. But really nothing ever happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I just, not that I understand your statement, but I also think that they were exposed. I mean, big time. So
yeah, absolutely. And one other thing I know we're jumping around a lot here because we kind of weren't expecting to go live and we just decided to do it. So we don't have a ton of guidelines here.
We're just freestyling here tonight,
we're freestyling. But one thing I wanted to point out is, oftentimes the Ravens are kind of criticized for being heavy leaning when they use their salary cap. They've heavily leaned towards using it towards their defense. They've allocated a lot of money on the defensive side, not so much on the offensive side. But I think don't you think that that's kind of only because we have a quarterback that's on his rookie deal? And like when we had Joe, that wasn't the case. And as soon as Lamar signs his extension, that won't be the case any longer either. So I think they're just trying to take advantage of, they have some really good and contributing players on offense that are cheap with Andrews, Hollywood, Gus, and Lamar Jackson.
And now JK
those guys get paid, and now as soon as those guys get paid, I think we're going to see a flip, and the money is going to be more allocated to the offense side.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, obviously, Lamar is eventually going to take up anywhere from 19 to 22% of our yearly cap in the coming future. So, and like you said, I mean, I was just about to say, don't even stop at Lamar, right? Because you brought him up. You got Andrews, you got Hollywood, and then think about it. I mean,
Bozeman.
We had Bozeman, Brown, or Orlando Brown. We had Hurst on a rookie deal. I mean, we've had over the years, we've done really well drafting offensive players and utilizing them early in their careers.
Just look at Jensen and Wagner, and then when it was time to pay them, sorry, we don't have enough money. I mean, So I just wanted to point that out that although right now it's heavily leaning towards the defense, that'll change very, very quickly.
Right. No, certainly.
So here's what else I wanted to get into. You got something?
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were dang, I just lost it. What were we just discussing? This is another thing that popped out today. When we were discussing, we all know that Marlon Humphrey, we love Marlon Humphrey in Baltimore. We love our secondary here in Baltimore. But how cool was it to see that he's finally getting some love as far as national pub? It was announced that he has the 90 overall coverage grade in single coverage since 2018, the highest in the league. I don't even think it's that close. And I know you got to be happy hearing that, Jimmy, because you have always been a big Marlon Humphrey guy, and you kind of throw shade at guys like Ramsey and Ward out of Cleveland, and you're not very impressed with some of those guys, but you like some Marlon Humphrey. So how happy are you to hear that he's finally getting some of that pub he deserves?
Super happy, because then on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, he's the second most targeted corner in the league.
Yeah, he gets a ton of targets.
So think about how good he has to be to have an average that high with the volume of targets that he has to go up against, right?
Right.
So that's impressive to me. And then on top of that, Marlon to me is the most unique corner and the all-around best corner in the NFL. And I'll say this, I don't say whatever you want about Ramsey. I don't think it's close. I think that Marlon Humphrey is far and away the best tackler, which is, in football, you can say whatever you want about tackling. It's essential, right? It is essential.
Absolutely.
I think that he wins over 50% of the battles in a one-on-one scenario with a running back. That's impressive from a corner. I mean, that is super valuable. And then just like it's incredible to watch some of these, when we had Ed Reed making his run, he's intercepting the ball like crazy. Look at what Marlon is doing when he's punching these balls out. I mean, the rate of success is just insane. Right? A turnover is a turnover. Just like Josh Harris says, a yard is a yard, a turnover is a turnover. I don't care how it comes. So his impact on the game is just incredible. Yeah, it looks different, but Marlon Humphrey to me is he's my favorite corner because he's a Raven, but he's just an all-around football player. It's like Mike Trout is the best baseball player, and I bet you could put Mike Trout at any position and he'd make a couple all-star games.
There's no doubt.
Aside from pitcher, right? He's just a ball player.
He's just a freak. To me, he's the most similar, I've seen a lot of people a few people similar to like Bo Jackson as far as a MLB player, but he looks very similar to them in a baseball uniform. If people remember what Bo looked like back when he used to play, they look very, very similar.
Right. So in that he is so versatile as just a ball, that any position you put him on the field, he's gonna excel. I feel like Marlon can do it all on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, he's not a defensive tackle, but he can do everything.
But he could play linebacker, and nobody here can tell me he can't. There's just no way. And that Zilla 314 points out Marlon's a beast, and we agree. And it says if the Ravens get a ring, he believes, or he or she believes, that Peters is going to the Hall of Fame. And it's hard to argue when you look at the amount of turnovers that Marcus Peters has created. It's not even close to the second place since he's been around. It's not even close. So, yeah, Azilla, I got to agree with you. It's hard to argue. As long as he continues to put up the numbers he's put up throughout his career and doesn't have a massive drop, because he is, in a way, a bit of a one-trick pony. We saw flashes of him showing some physicality throughout the season, but for the most part, he's a cover guy who, does just that. He blankets a guy, and that's pretty much what you get. Now, there's not a ton of guys out there that can do it at his level, so it makes you very highly paid to be able to just do that specialty. And there's no better ball hawk in the league right now, and that's crazy to think about from a cornerback, position.
It's so awesome that we got him for Kenny Young has turned into a rotational player and a fifth rounder. But like you said, if he goes to the Hall, think about that.
and really, if you revisit his contract, it's reasonable.
And think about Marlon's deal in 1 year makes more than Marcus Peters' entire guaranteed portion of his contract.
Crazy.
Think of Ramsey's deal. And is he really much more valuable than Marcus Peters? That much more?
Now we differ slightly here because I think it was Bruno. Yeah, Bruno said, wait, you're down on Ramsey. Look, Jimmy does not waver. When he is down on someone, he stays down. Now, I'm a little different. I give respect to Ramsey. I just think that I think they're very close. They're tight, and everyone just wants to give him the crown of being the hands down best corner. And look, I've seen plays, I've seen games where, I think Devontae Adams was giving him some work. Who was it? I just, one of their last games I watched, he was turning around. What I don't like is as soon as he gives up anything, he turns around and looks for someone to blame.
Teammates.
And then he went to that post-game press conference and called out his safety the previous year, embarrassed him. I don't like that kind of stuff. So I'm looking at more of the complete package, and that's why I give the edge to Humphrey. But yeah, and I agree with Chris Griffith. I think I think it was him Jimmy Smith, monster. When he is healthy, it is ridiculous the difference he makes on the field. It allows everyone else to fall into more comfortable roles. He's so versatile, can play safety. He can play, he can guard your best tight end and lock him up. He can obviously play on the outside where he's most comfortable, and he can play a little bit of slot. This guy is and he's physical. Honestly, I wish he'd be a little less physical on occasion because, that's what got him hurt, is taking on that tight end and hurting his shoulder and sending him out for a few games. So I wish he would maybe make a business decision here or there, but I appreciate his physicality. And as Frank said, you can never have enough good corners.
Yeah, and I think that Jimmy Smith's uniqueness has become more and more of has been more and more noticeable over the years. And like you talked about, how he's now with Marcus and with Marlon, he's been asked to do a wider variety of things. And to be able to do that with such ease. I at the Ravens draft party 2 years ago, let's see, we drafted Hollywood 2 years ago. I saw Jimmy Smith. He was signing autographs. He has bowling balls for shoulders.
He's a big boy.
It is shocking.
Broad. You're right. Very broad. He's taller than me.
With all these guys.
He's a true 6'3" too, Jimmy.
It's just, it's incredible. The physical gifts that he has are incredible. And when he came out of the draft, and people were kind of up and down and all over the place on Jimmy, but his value, it's crazy because he's not getting paid like him. I think his value is higher now because he's able to do so much.
Right.
I absolutely love having him. But all I want to say, I'm just gonna talk about this real quick. Ramsey is a dog. You're absolutely right. He's incredible. All I'm trying to say is that I think that anyone, if you look at the value of his contract, what the Rams gave up and what they're paying him now in comparison to what we gave up and what we're paying Marcus Peters, I don't think that it's even a conversation.
Oh, what they gave up to get Ramsey from what they give up to get Ramsey? 2 ones, and then they had to make him the highest paid.
Yeah, he's making over $100 million in that deal.
So, it's clear the Ravens got the better end of that. And when they had their one-on-one matchup, Peters, he showed out and made sure he reminded everyone that he was doing so. But there's another question that came in, and I'm trying to find it. There it is. Omar Ja. Anyone else think we should replace Chuck Clark? And I was looking into some of that because I do think that there's not a lot missing in that secondary. Honestly, they'd be just fine trotting out those. They got 4 monster corners and a pretty good a couple others that are going to play behind them, and Averett. and maybe Iman Marshall. But the safeties, look, they were not a liability in coverage, none of that. But they also weren't making many plays in coverage. I think we were all happy with the Joker and how he stepped up in Earl's absence, and certainly wasn't a liability, and was a dominant force really in helping come up and cover the run, putting some pretty good hits on guys. But Chuck Clark, we like Chuck Clark. We think he's always kind of in the right spot, but he always seems to just miss the play. I mean, I saw countless interceptions that hit him in the hand. He did have the nice tipped interception where he returned it on the Colts. If you remember, it kind of made Old Man Rivers look like Old Man Rivers on the return. But outside of that, I mean, I'm sure you guys remember countless times where balls are banging off his hands. He's just a little, I mean, he's always there, but he's always just a little shy of making a play. But the only problem with, and I have a guy out here, I have options out here. Let me actually get into the option because Anthony Harris is a safety out of Minnesota who's now a free agent who, I mean, this guy would be an awesome ad. He had a bit of an off year last year. But before that, in 2019, he was rated by PFF as the #1 overall safety in football with 6 interceptions and had a 91.6 coverage grade. Monster in coverage. In 2018, he was the 3rd rated safety overall with an 87.1 coverage rating. Plays a lot of that deep middle, that deep middle coverage that we remember Ed Reed doing a whole lot of it and doing it at the best level ever. But this guy would be perfect in playing that deep center field role. Now he's going to come in at a steeper price tag because when you perform the way you did in his last contract, you get paid. So right now his annual evaluation, I think, was 11 on one source and 14 on another source. So depending on where you go, it's going to be pricey. And I think that's what rules him out ultimately, because Chuck Clark, while he may have some holes in his game, they signed him for such a reasonable price that, I mean, he signed through 2023, Jimmy, and he doesn't have a cap number over 4.6, and that's in his final year, his $4.6 million cap. That's a value for a guy who can wear the green dot, who can get everybody in. He's never going to disappoint you as far as blown coverage and let you down in these bad ways. But he just still isn't going to make a ton of plays on the back end. He's just a solid player. So while I would like to see him replaced with a more natural free safety and let Deshaun Elliott move down into the box where I think he'll really excel, I don't know. I think they're going to end up settling and sticking with him because they have too much they have enough invested in him, and it's at a pretty cheap cost for what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there, and I think the guy you brought up could be an interesting one. I'm interested to see what sort of traction he gets as far as coverage in the news and things like that. He's obviously he's a second tier guy, but could definitely.
But as far as safeties, I think he's the #1 guy.
That's what I was going to say. Based on the fact that positionally he's the hottest commodity out there at his position, so that could certainly cause him to get some notoriety. But there's something I wanted to bring up that I've been thinking about for actually the past couple of days, and we were talking about tackles and things, and if you'll remember last year during the regular season when we played the Titans, we lost that game, but Isaiah Wilson, of course, their their first round pick, sitting on the sideline. Guy's an absolute, physically he's an absolute beast. But he's had issues taking to the playbook, showing interest in football. Doesn't sound like he likes playing for the Titans that much. Has had some, disciplinary issues. Sounds like a lot of it has to do with, some work ethic or motivation. But the thing that's interesting to me is that what the Titans have said openly is that this guy that we have here is not the same guy that we went and scouted and talked to and interviewed and, all these things in college. He's totally different, right? So some people in the Ravens news have thought that because the Titans look like they're closer, it seems like it's more likely than a 50-50 proposition they're going to let him walk.
Wow. And
they've made it very clear to him. So do you see a team like the Ravens swooping in, taking a flyer on him, and turning him into something because his physical gifts are there? And if they're saying that he's different than he was in college, maybe some of it has to do with the coaching rubbing him wrong, things like that. So I just want to get your take on that idea. If you would be interested in it, would it get you excited at all?
Who are you talking about?
Isaiah Wilson, the lineman out of the Tennessee Titans. He was
not that familiar with them, to be honest. I mean, I could say some stuff, but I'm not. I now that you say the name, I do remember seeing the story that there's issues, but I don't know enough about him. Do you have any type of grades on them, or
I mean, I could give you some stuff, but yeah. Let me give you some information, but I just want to say this. I mean,
what position is he? A guard?
He's a tackle.
He's a tackle. Okay.
Yeah, and he's 6'6", 351.
He's a big boy.
He's massive, boy. And he was a number one out of Georgia.
But they've had the only thing that worries me there is that that's a run first offense in Tennessee. He's going to be in the same type here. They were tackle needy because they just lost Jack Conklin to the Browns to a monster deal, and then their left tackle Taylor Lewan's always banged up. Seemingly every year he's either banged up or suspended for PODs. So what are PEDs? PEDs. What's a POD? I don't even know.
Pod.
But yeah, so man, if they can't figure out a way to use them, then
well, look, he only had 3 offensive snaps last year.
And they're needy at tackle. I mean,
how much of it do you think? I don't know. It's so hard to unpack the whole thing, right? Because we don't know so much. You know, if he could have been put in someone's doghouse, might have done something really stupid. But I mean, this guy is so young. Let me see here. He's I can tell you right now his age. I mean, obviously he's a rookie, so he's early 20s. But let's see. I can give you some more information. He's 22 years old. Obviously, you know, highly touted out of Georgia. And like I said, I mean, I don't know if the Ravens can turn him around, but I feel like our culture is such that there could be an option for that, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And who knows, if this kid turns out, then that's like getting a number 1 pick, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway,
I mean, it's an idea. It's an idea.
I guess what I'm trying to say, I mean, he's the 29th overall pick last year. The Ravens are the best bargain shoppers, I think, in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely they're going to have to continue to succeed at that. And this could be a way to do it. So I think it could be interesting. All I'm saying is that Coach Vrabel seems to be the type of guy that doesn't connect with anyone and with everyone. And if he doesn't care if he connects with you or not. Seems like he's got pretty rigid personality.
Yeah, I don't know him that. I don't know him that well, but
me and him used to live next to each other.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. You guys used to egg each other's houses.
Yeah. Well, he would like do something, and he's like the O'Doyle rules. Remember that O'Doyle rules?
Oh yeah,
the whole family is like that. So
just a bunch of bullies.
Yeah, sometimes I can rub you the wrong way, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, there's another guy that was mentioned in the chat that was let's see, Malik Hooker, who was the talented safety who was taken out of he was taken by the Colts out of the Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an interesting guy because he's had his injury battles but he's had moments where he can play well. I mean, he's a guy that I think would be nice if he was able to stay on the field. He's 6'1", 212. I'll be honest, I don't know I know when he was coming out, and, I watch a couple here and there indie games, but, I'm not going to act like I'm an expert on Malik Hooker. All I can go by is what I'm seeing, in the stats in front of me and PFF and from what the limited time I've seen him.
Right.
And I think he would be an okay player, but he wouldn't excite me to, that much. And I don't think he's a guy that necessarily, you need to create a bunch of cap space for like you would for the other safety I mentioned, Simmons, who I think is going to end up getting a good chunk of change. When you look at his 2019, 2018, he was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody apparently is saying that or Chris Griffith is saying that Hooker's made of glass.
He's dinged up a lot.
But you know what? That's what it's going to be. It's going to be the older guys or the injury question guys. I mean, that's not saying that. I think we'll go out there and we'll make one splash. Like, a splash for the Ravens, right? Like not a headline splash, but we'll make one like, all right, that's a $8 to $12 million investment annually for maybe the next 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Right? So definitely going to be interesting. And now with Carson Wentz, this is another thing. With Carson Wentz now gone, he's out of the picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a foregone conclusion at this point that they're doing everything they can to get out of salary cap purgatory, right? So Zach Ertz seems to be out the door, right?
Yeah. And it seems logical that he would follow Carson Wentz.
So that's true. But the only thing I'll say is that I know that we've talked about this a lot, so we don't have to spend too much time on it. But the Ravens, of course, I mean, it sounds like it was almost a done deal last year before he got injured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So based on the fact that it was almost a done deal, it still intrigues me that, you know, even with Boyle, even with Tomlinson, and then obviously Andrews. I mean, the way I see it is that you would have a quasi three-headed monster again. And to me, in addition, while Mark Andrews is incredible, I think as far as volume goes, I think literally Ertz can be, I mean, not literally, but in a way, he can be our number one wide receiver. Like, as far as, I mean, I think he has the record for most receptions in a year by a tight end.
Yeah,
that was only,
so.
a couple years ago.
Or maybe Kelsey may have taken
I think Kelsey has yards, but I don't think receptions.
Okay. All right.
I'll double check that. But yeah, so all I'm trying to say is that how you feeling about that? Any interest there, or you not necessarily think the likelihood is very high?
No, you know what? The more I think about it, I think if they were going to pack it, wouldn't you assume that if they were going to send Ertz to Indy, they would have packaged him in that same trade?
Didn't they try?
Yeah, why make multiple trades? And honestly, they have to feel maybe not like, I don't know how happy they feel with their deal with Indy, because it seemed like, at least initially, they were expecting a whole lot more than what they ended up settling for, being a conditional second and a third, I believe is what it is. And he has to play like 75% of the snaps for that conditional second to become a true second.
For it to become a first.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. But that's still a big if with him. I mean, when's the last time he played 75% of the offensive snaps? It's been a long time. So I don't know how rosy they feel with the Indianapolis Colts, and maybe they don't want to trade him there and help them even more after their deal, or maybe, behind the scenes they feel good about it. I guess we don't know, but I find it hard to believe they wouldn't have made that deal quicker. They're already on the phone with them. Like, why wait multiple days to make two separate deals with the same team? So I do think that there's still a very good chance he could come to Baltimore. It's just so interesting. I wish we could be a freaking fly on the wall just to at least know which position they're targeting more, like more heavily leaning towards a receiver like Corey Davis or a tight end like Zach Ertz. Or if they're looking at an interior offensive line, or I guess all the way out to tackle now that Orlando's on his way out. Yeah, it's interesting to see. But I think that, of course, he would help the team. I mean, I would absolutely be thrilled, because I think, like I've said before, Roman knows best how to use tight ends and not necessarily how to best use wideouts. At least not, he hasn't shown that. And Lamar is more comfortable throwing over the middle of the field, and, like a lot of guys are. So I think that he would be better in our offense possibly than even some of these higher name or, big name receivers that are out there. I think Zach Ertz may be more effective in our offense than a lot of these guys. I mean,
yeah. And so just to confirm, 116 receptions. He still holds the record in a year. That's insane for a tight end. I mean, think about that productivity.
That's ridiculous. I mean,
that's receiver, right? That's so you can lean on him as far as volume goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that by doing that, based on his style of play, I don't think you hurt Andrews' numbers in third down and red zone. And then I don't think you hurt Hollywood. I think it helps because they can't just focus on Hollywood. You have so much more to worry about with a guy like Zach, who no single linebacker can defend.
Yeah, exactly. And I have Horace Taurus. Jordan Reed is not better than Zach Ertz. Jordan Reed, it's not even close. I mean, Jordan Reed isn't. You talk about a guy made of glass. Jordan Reed is exactly that.
Well, I think Jordan Reed's got he's gotten so many concussions. He's got to get naked to count to 21 these days, right? Like, I mean,
there's no chance. Yeah, he's had so many concussions. This guy. And if you don't believe in the Colts, that's fine. But I think they have probably the best offensive line in football. They have a monster running game with multiple guys behind them. And now if Carson Wentz can return to anywhere near like his old form when he was competing he was the MVP leader when he got hurt the year they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles at quarterback. So if he can return to anything, and then I haven't even talked about the Colts defense. I mean, they have maybe the best young linebacker in the league in Darius Leonard, and they got a lot of talent. They might have the best D tackle, or one of the best D tackles. I guess there's no one better than Aaron Donald, but I think Buckner is an absolute man child down. He's a beast. He's what, 6'9". I mean, he's gigantic. Yeah. And they gave up a first round pick for him, and they couldn't be happier with what they've gotten back from that first round pick. So I think they're right on the cusp of being darn good. And correct me if I'm wrong, they made the playoffs and lost to the Bills. Is that correct? They lost to the Bills in the first round. So, no shame in that. And they've gotten better, in the offseason. So I think they're going to be pretty talented. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to disagree. I mean, if you think Jordan Reed, stack their careers up. I mean, I'm not saying Jordan Reed wasn't at one point a really good player. He had that fantastic year where he had double-digit touchdowns. He was fantastic. But Zach Ertz it's not even discussion.
And then to me, I think this past year says it all. He had all the opportunity in the world with Kittle going down the majority of the season, right? Him coming over to the 49ers, who relied heavily on Kittle for him to go down. He had every opportunity to, kind of bounce back and turn his career around. And I didn't see him making any waves. Obviously wasn't a Pro Bowl or anything like that. And They missed Kittle big time. Not that he's not Kittle, but not that you're expecting him to be a 1-for-1 substitute, but something, right? Like, what I mean?
And they had struggles at quarterback. So, I mean, they were trotting multiple different guys out there.
It was like every quarter it was a different guy.
Yeah. So that can be kind of tough, but look, I mean, I don't know. I think I think Ertz would be a nice addition. I mean, I'd be thrilled with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and by the way, just so you know, Darius Leonard was the 10th rated overall linebacker. So yeah, he's a beast. Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right. So the other thing I have something else I wanted to bring up here really quickly that I saw. Why did I add an L?
Did you put an L at the end?
Yeah. Why did I do that? That was ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wanted to say just a quick shout out to RG3 for helping out down in Texas during the crisis class act. He donated to some food banks down there. It's pretty awesome.
Pierre Desir as well.
Yeah.
Former Raven, briefly, but former Raven.
That's right. We had 2 men of the year last year. We had the Jets, Pierre Desir, and then obviously Bradley Bozeman. But my question to you, one of them was around a guy that I want the Ravens to kick the tires on, but I'm not going to go there quite yet. I want to talk about J.J. Watt. We talked about J.J. Watt early when it happened.
Yeah.
And it looks like a lot of commenters are asking. There's been no, well, there's been some news, but not in the past couple of days. I don't think there's been anything really new. Like the last thing we heard was about Cleveland, right?
Yeah, and this is how ridiculous the news is getting. J.J. Watt tweeted out a photo of like the weather report on his TV screen or something, and there was his dogs are sitting in front of the TV, and they're saying, "Look, he's tweeting out a picture of his dogs because he's coming to the dog pound." I mean, look, I agree that the Browns would be a nice landing spot for him. They have a lot, they have a lot of things he wants. They got a great pass rusher opposite him to relieve some pressure. They got a, up and coming offense. It looks like it's getting pretty strong. They got a monster offensive line, the best running backs in the league. They got the coach of the year, a really nice young executive in Barry. So I think it would be a nice landing spot for him, but I'm not sure how much I'm buying into him tweeting with his dogs, heads peeking into the photo that means he's joining the dog pound. But yeah, I mean, I still argue that the best spot for him would be here in Baltimore. I mean, I look at how the Ravens use their guys. Okay. Matt Judon, right? We rave about Matt Judon because of his availability. Do we not, Jimmy? We talk about how Matt Judon doesn't miss games. That's right. One thing that he can put when he comes to the table to negotiate, he can say, I'm healthy. Well, I believe if I have it correct, I don't have it in front of me, but I read he played like 58% of the defensive snaps, while J.J. Watt played almost 92% of his team's defensive snaps. So when he comes to Baltimore, his workload is going to drop immensely. I know we had a bunch of talented edge, and that
97% of snaps.
J.J. did?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then look up Matt Judon, and I know we had depth there, but even when the depth was limited, he was nowhere near that because that's not how Wink rolls. Wink likes to get guys in and out and make sure they're fresh. And a lot of times that leads to less injuries. I mean, if you look at Baltimore in the last 5 years, I think you'll see that they're pretty good when comparable to the other teams at keeping their guys healthy. So if he did come to Baltimore, he'd have a lowered workload. He would be able to play at with more fresh legs and be able to contribute I think more, even with less snaps as far as statistically, because he won't be worn down. I think that, we'll still have comparable cap money and we'll be able to pay him a decent deal. That it's not like the Browns have miles more cap than the Ravens. I mean, it's a few million. And then honestly, I would rather hitch my final years, if this is a multi-year deal, with an organization that's got a track record a little bit better than the Cleveland Browns, who are really only found success here recently, and it's really only been one season's worth of success. So
Right.
I still think it makes most sense for him to ball. We have a monster hole at the position, need pass rush. For all you guys saying don't want JJ, I'll ask you again, who is going to sack the opposing quarterback for the Ravens? Because Judon is likely gone. Yannick is likely gone. At best, we might be able to bring back Bowser and Pernell McPhee, which if you're looking for pass rush for those two guys, you better be expecting a 5-6 man blitz to do it, because they cannot get home. They cannot beat single coverage. They definitely can't beat double coverage. Well, JJ can do both. He was the most double teamed guy, and he still had a top 10 win rate in both pass rush and run defense. I think he was 8th and 6th. So he's just look, I like Derek Wolfe. I see Derek Wolfe from Will White. I like Derek Wolfe, and I think he'd be a heck of a guy to bring back. But if you're asking me between those two, it's not close. I mean, JJ's just a far better playmaker.
Yeah, I think they'll get paid. They'll get compensated differently as well, right? Like,
yeah.
But so just to answer your question, Judon was at 52.9%.
Look at that.
The thing that's interesting to me when you look at some of JJ's numbers, last year he had 5 sacks. The year before that he had 4. But the year he came off that, he came off the 2016. He had the injury, but he had played. I think one game, if I'm not mistaken. And then, but 2018 he missed 2017 he missed he missed the majority of the season as well. But 2018, it's like, okay, they thought this guy's just old. He's injury riddled. He's not going to bounce back. So they stopped double a team, and in 1 year, right? 16 sacks. 16. So, and then of course they go back to respecting him, as a big time player. And then he goes to, his sacks go down a little bit, but in just like you're referencing, I mean, he's still been productive. And then when you have to double team, other guys have an opportunity. So he opens up the door for so many other players. But I guess my question to you, Glenn, is that where now that time has gone by and, he's still out there waiting, where do you see him ending up?
Who, JJ? I think, well, look, it's awfully suspicious that the Packers are clearing cap space, and I'm hearing they're considering moving on from Preston Smith because of his cap number. I think he has like a $16 or $17 million cap number, and if they did that, I would certainly lean towards them. I think the Tennessee Titans have definitely a spot with Jadeveon not being there any longer and being banged up when he was there. I think they have a good shot. I think Cleveland has a good shot. I think there's a lot of suitors, and that's why he was tweeting out the bug eyes or googly eyes and he said that free agency is fun because he's getting courted right now, and everyone is telling him how great he is and how much he's the missing link. So I think there's a lot of guys out there. I would like to see him in Baltimore, but it's all like this Eye of Horus mentions, all about the price, because how much of a cut is he willing to take to play for the Ravens? And if money is still of the utmost importance, then I think Baltimore's out of the running because there's other teams that can pay him more. So does he want to get close to his brothers and play them twice a year? Does he want to go to a winning organization that's always had a reputation of treating veterans fairly and respectfully, and organization that has maybe the best coaching staff? I mean, look, a lot of people are going to disagree with me in the chat, but certainly from a defensive standpoint, I think it's hard to find a better DC in the league than Wink Martindale. And then his line coach will be Anthony Weaver. He just a lot of familiarity. So I would like to see him. Now, there's a couple other names in here I wanted to bring up. Cam Wee. We keep forgetting to answer Cam Wee. He keeps bringing up Von Miller, and we keep for some reason just not seeing it or going past it. And I think everyone would be thrilled to see Von Miller here, and he's already got a ring, so I don't know how much chasing another is of the utmost importance to him, or if he wants the highest contract, because I mean, man, he's still Von Miller to me. So I would venture to say that he's going to get paid a pretty good amount as a free agent. But I mean, what do you think about Von Miller?
As soon as I heard, of course, that Yeah, I saw some rumblings again that there's a chance that they're going to part ways, and it's starting to look more and more that way. I tweeted out, and I tweeted at Elvis Dumerville and said, hey, give your boy a call to talk to him about going to the Ravens, because I think that Elvis enjoyed his time here.
Yes.
I think he certainly enjoyed his time and liked being a Raven. So, I agree with you, though. I think that based on the fact that he already has a ring and JJ has that as, something that, is pushing him and driving him, not just the money, I think that Vaughn just could probably end up going to the highest bidder. And I don't think that we will ever be the highest bidder. Not ever, but I think Eric's going to be a little more cautious than before, based on the fact that Earl Thomas openly admitted he was going to take like a 1-year, $5 million deal to play with Kansas City. And then we blew him out of the water with the deal.
Right.
So he didn't even really want to be here.
Right.
So I think that Eric learned a lot from that experience as a young GM.
Yep.
No, so the other thing I wanted to bring up, totally off topic here, and you guys can correct me, but I'm pretty sure I just saw on Twitter that a couple days ago, did Lamar Jackson get a haircut?
Yeah, I believe.
Are the braids gone?
Braids are gone.
Fresh cut.
New look. Yeah, absolutely.
What's that? I mean, hopefully, I don't know any guys that are superstitious, but hopefully that's a good thing if you are.
You think a new look is maybe. I don't know. I just think he was probably tired of dealing with the braids and wanted a fresh look. He's a young man. He cares about his appearance. He has his own clothing line, likes to be fresh. So maybe
one day we will don on the show when it's not so expensive.
Yeah, the Wild Dogs. Yeah, I would love to get, and it's always on back order. It seems like. I mean, the Ravens fans stepping up and look, Matabike. I'm excited.
I was going to say that too,
guys. I think.
Oh my gosh,
on down the stretch, he's going to be a force. Now, he doesn't bring anything from the edge, but he does bring stuff. He certainly can develop into a pass rusher that brings the heat from the middle. I think he's got a chance to really ball out. Yeah, absolutely. And then
apparently the braids were a joke.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I mean,
I
saw the picture. He was like wiping it, but I didn't look. I'm not too much into that kind of stuff, but that's fine. But then somebody's mentioning that Von Miller has a domestic violence issue right now. And that would probably, I can't look, if the Ravens say that they're not going down that road again, I don't think they are. So can you, if that's the case, can you post a source if you don't mind? I'm not disputing your whoever the chat was that said that, because I've heard that nothing has been disclosed. He does have a some issue, but
criminal investigation.
Yeah, we don't know what it is
in Denver, but it has not been disclosed. That's the last thing I heard. But if you have a source that you can send a link to in the chat, please do.
Yeah,
because I don't know if that I wouldn't want to say that. Oh well, all right.
Do you find something? Did you
investigate
just go on the old
old web? Von Miller is subject to criminal investigation in Parker, Colorado. But it says investigation to Von Miller involves domestic violence allegations.
Yeah, that doesn't.
There goes that.
That doesn't bode well for him becoming a Raven.
Yeah, he will never be a Raven.
Yeah, he got us. I guess he got us. I mean, I wasn't. He tricked us with an old video showing him cutting his hair. I guess he did, but I mean, I didn't really.
It's funny because when I saw it, I was like, he looks a little skinnier than he does now.
You go.
And I was like, yeah.
That explains it.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, so I think Von's out of the picture based on that, because I just don't think, like you said, the Ravens have been there, been burned. Now at the same time, I mean, they've been there, been burned. So at the end of the day, though, Ozzie Newsome, of course, sticks by his players until all the facts come out. Obviously, the facts with Ray Rice were damning and not redeeming. Mm-hmm. So if the facts are redeeming with Von Miller. Now, I don't know how they could or couldn't be, because if you dig deeper into the Twitterverse, of course, his ex posted some screenshots of them texting of him being very upset that she was pregnant and telling her to get an abortion. So, if they're connected together, who knows what's going on in
that seems too personal. I don't even want to.
Right. No, I'm just saying that, like, it just, it's that happened. And then this alleged issue happened.
It doesn't look good for him.
Right. So I don't think he'll be a Raven is my point after all that. But did you want to bring something up?
Yeah, I agree with Taurus. I think Pernell McPhee coming back will be awesome. I think he was a dominant force in the playoff games, shutting down Derrick Henry. He was a big part of that. He teaches young guys how to play like a Raven. And he's a member of the old guard with Ray, Suggs, Haloti.
And he was a comp pick.
There you go. He's a pretty darn good comp pick. So yeah, I absolutely would love and expect McPhee to come back, because where else would he hold more value than here in Baltimore, being a true Raven at heart. So I think we could get him back for a relatively cheap deal, make him happy, and let his role. He has just that perfect role to make him be able to keep playing and staying healthy, which is just limiting his snaps and playing him where he is at his best, doing what he does best, which is hold that edge and then create some havoc from an interior pass rush when called upon. But yeah, Bruno, I like Hassan Reddick. That's a guy I mentioned when we were going over the list. I think he had 12 and a half sacks off the top of my head, kind of a slow starter in the league. He was a guy I was really hyped when he came out. I think he was drafted before the Ravens got the opportunity. I think he was like in the low teens or 12 or something when he got taken by the Cardinals. But yeah, the only problem with him is he's undersized. He's a small guy. I believe he's only like 6'1", like 245 or 250. Really small for an outside linebacker. Typically in Baltimore, if you look at the history of linebackers here, you're looking 250, 260, and you're talking 6'5", 6'6". I mean, so the issue is, how much does he impact the run? I think it's clear that he's a pass rusher, and we need that in Baltimore. But do you want to pay a guy? It depends on how much he wants. If he wants to be paid like a more of a what's it called? A niche or
like a specialist.
There it is, a specialist. If he wants to be paid like a pass rush specialist, then that would be a great ad. But I don't think you can look at him as a guy who can come in and play, almost every down like a Terrell Suggs used to. But yeah, I think he would be awesome. Absolutely. And thanks to the Roger, who's listening from Melbourne, Australia. Look at that.
No way.
Yeah, man. International.
Dude,
thanks
for
the comment. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and you know what? The Roger, I might regret saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Okay. In the about of our YouTube channel, there is an email. Email us and we have some swag. I personally will send you a shirt so you can rock 410 Sports Talk swag in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm pretty sure that's how the Australians pronounce it. I think it's Melbourne. I could be totally wrong, but I had a buddy that lived there for a couple years.
Is that like
Louisville? It's like a Louisville thing, like a Balmer thing. You don't say the T. Yeah, where you live? I live in Balmer.
Excellent. Well, that's cool, man. That's pretty cool, but you might make some people angry by that offer. I just gotta say it. But yeah, Chris Scott,
if you look, anyone that's further away that's watching the show, go ahead and email me and show me the proof. But if not, hit us up in the email and I'll send you a shirt when we have it, of course.
Nice. Cool. Well, yeah, I would love to see the Ravens get Corey Davis. We talked about him. If they can get him for around $10 million, that would be the hope. I think he would be a perfect ad. The guy they're missing, the size, the possession type receiver.
Sorry that I just laughed. I'll keep going.
That's okay. That's the guy we're missing. Now, Chris Godwin, I think, would be spectacular. I mean, he's the number one rated receiver last year, but there's no chance they can.
How much does he pull a year?
I think
what do you think?
19
to 21 on a crazy, if he gets.
Yeah. I mean, the guy is he's
because he's gonna get
24.
Yeah, he's going to get a bump too, because that Super Bowl champions get paid more money.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
It just happens. That effect, right? Of
even though, with Tom Brady on your team, I think that you get that lowered a little bit. I mean, but even without Tom Brady, the year before, he was the number one rated receiver in the entire league with Jameis Winston throwing him the ball, which, he throws it to the other team just as often as he does. Look at this. Big Willie is from Sweden.
And another guy from Melbourne.
Craig Hadlow, shout out. Oh, man. International. That's pretty cool.
We appreciate the support.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Now, the one thing I'll say about the truth that says AB, Godwin not as good as AB. Okay, I will disagree based on their career trajectories. I think that Godwin is better and much younger right now, but I don't think that AB is going. I think he's attached to the hip of Tom Brady, just like Gronk. Now, maybe not to the same extent where he's going to retire, but I think he wants to be around Tom. Tom has helped resurrect his career. He was a big advocate for him in New England. And I think if it were just up to Tom, he would have stayed in New England despite the situations that he was going through. So I guess what I'll say is I don't think he's going to leave Tom Brady until he has to. And I think he's done bargaining on deals. I'm not saying he's going to strike a big deal like he had before. I think he's done. Bargaining days are over.
Yeah, I mean, why would he leave Tampa Bay? It's expected Godwin's going to leave because of the asking price and because they have a ton of guys that they're looking to bring back. They're going to have to if they want Leonard Fournette. I don't know if they do or not. That's going to cost Shaq Barrett, who showed out in the Super Bowl and has showed out over the last couple seasons, been consistent pass rusher, and Ndamukong Suh, another guy who was definitely collapsing the pocket from the outside, which was kind of surprising to see in the Super Bowl, him doing it from the edge, him and Vita Vea doing it from the edge. But they got a ton of guys to bring back. And I'm assuming, and I think it's safe to assume, that AB will get less money than Chris Godwin. So they could just replace Godwin with AB. He's lived at Tom Brady's house in both of his stops with Tom Brady. So I think he is stuck together for him with him until he's gone. And I don't blame him, because they're competing for a Super Bowl until he's gone. I mean, Tom Brady is an instant, Super Bowl contender when he comes to your team. As much as I'm not a New England fan and not a Bucs fan, but I'm just, keeping it real. So I don't know why he would ever leave. I think he'd be kind of crazy to leave, but you never know. I guess crazier things have happened. We can't totally rule it out. But as far as Duvernay, I want to ask you about this, because I see Duvernay could be our number one. I see some disagreements, but I like Duvernay. I think when given the opportunity, I don't remember an opportunity he didn't really make the most of last season, despite being limited in those opportunities. But what are your thoughts? I mean, to me, number one, I'd have to see a whole lot more out of him to say that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's as big shoes to fill. I'm not saying he couldn't get there one day, but this is the only thing you can say about Duvernay is his grade is inconclusive.
Yeah, it's too early.
Yes, it's too early to make a claim like that, but it's too early also to claim the other way that he can never do it, because he hasn't been given the opportunity, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But that's also the good thing. There's a lot of upside with him, and I think that when his volume increases, there's a chance that this kid could be special. I'll agree with that 100%. And man, I didn't realize his physicality and running with the ball in his hands was so elite. I underestimated that. Coming into the NFL, I thought, okay, well, all these guys are world-class athletes. All these guys are physical and stuff like that. He's different. He's different, man. I just think that, I mean, just watch the way he approaches the idea of Yak when he gets the ball in his hand in comparison to Hollywood.
Yeah. But and we got to give Hollywood credit. He's been more physical as of late down the stretch. But no, there's no doubt. Day one, Duvernay showed no fear.
Yeah.
He was a blur as a kick returner. And let's be honest, that's maybe the position you have to have the least amount of fear, that and punt returner, because them guys are coming at 100 miles an hour trying to rip your head off. He showed no fear. When he's given the ball, he's not dancing, looking to avoid contact. He knows what he has to do to get the most out of it. And if that means take a lick or try and split two defenders and let them both smash you from either side, he'll do that. And then he showed out to be a great punt returner. So
his vision is incredible.
Exactly. So at the very least, he's a really, really good return guy for us from now on. And at the most, I think you're right. I think he could develop into like that McCole Hardman type player. But different in the sense that McCole, when he's in space, he's looking to make you miss and outrun you. And I think Duvernay, he might look to outrun you, but he's also looking to run through some arm tackles and break a tackle or two. Yeah. So I think, but their role as far as being that deep threat, being that quick hit guy that can then make yards after, I think McCole Hardman is the similar guy that I like him to, because they're both returners and they're both big play threats.
Now, the only difference I'll say, and we might disagree here, is I think that Duvernay would serve well to be a high volume guy in targets. In the short game, while I know we kind of got Hollywood going at the end of the year, but I think the short game, the best scenario for the Ravens would be that he is looked at as the best solution to Lamar making easy, quick passes and getting as much out of them as he can, because his vision is elite based on the fact that he was a running back, growing up. And then, like you said, his whole mentality to running the ball is different than a wide receiver. It's so clearly different. And I hate that I missed it in watching his college tape, but it's just different. Yeah, the kid's just different. So I think that I don't see anything wrong with him getting 4 to 6 targets a game. I don't see anything bad coming out of that. And maybe more, but I mean, that would be, I think he's earned it. Boykin hasn't. He has absolutely earned this opportunity to be a bigger slice of the pie in the passing game, volume-wise.
Yeah, because, again, you give him the opportunity, he has not shown to be disappointed. I mean, Boykin similarly hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities either, but there's been opportunities he has gotten that he hasn't taken full advantage of. So you can't say the same for Duvernay. Now I know I see there's another guy people are mentioning in the text going after Adam Thielen, saying that they could probably get him for a relatively low pick. I'm looking at his contract, and I do agree that this would definitely be, if they chose to keep him the last year under this deal, that Minnesota would look to hang on to him, because next year they can get out from under him no problem, and then the following 2 years they really have there's no chance he's on their team in 23 and 24. There's a small chance that he's there in 2022 and this year as well, because if they did get rid of him this year, they would still suffer $5.5 million in cap dead money, which fans aren't, or teams aren't a fan of doing that. But the seasons after that, they really have very little dead money and a lot of cap relief. So, but if the Ravens were to trade for him, they wouldn't want to take on this contract. So it would have to be some sort of an agreement to then work on a restructure or extension of some sorts, or something that can lower that cap hit, because it's a monster hit. And at 31 years old right now, he's not the youngest guy, but I agree in his skill set would be a really nice add. I mean, this guy, he's 6'2", 195, but you talk about playing bigger and absolutely. A route running technician, one of the best hands in the league. I mean, just look at he had a one-handed catch last year that was absolutely sensational in the corner of the end zone. I think they did like that next gen they did on it, and they gave it like a 3% chance to be caught or something. And he brought it in. So he is phenomenal. I think he'd be exactly what we're missing. It's just a question of what's he want to play for at this point in his year or in his career. And he's not getting any younger. But the good thing is his game was never based on speed. So in theory, if he lost some speed, he should still be fine, because he's more about being that tactician, that route runner that gets open by using, his fancy footwork, Jimbo.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I haven't looked too much into it, because I feel like the news is kind of crazy these days, where like a week ago, Kirk Cousins was on the block, and, all these things are going, and then that's kind of gone away. So I don't know what the Vikings are. Are they just rebuilding? Are they retooling? How are they? So I don't know, but shoot, I mean, if we can get him for a good deal, I'll take it. And I trust that.
And they definitely have a number one there. Jefferson?
Yeah, it's not like they don't, certainly. I mean, that kid's an absolute
and then did you see Kubiak's son took over as OC, let his boy take over? That's interesting. That was kind of cool to see, because we're Kubiak guys, because in his short time in Baltimore, we loved the guy. We were bummed to see him leave.
Got the most out of Joe Flacco, and it's not even close.
Yeah, and we understood why he left. He had to follow his dream, and ended up working out. I think he won a Super Bowl there, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think there's definitely still a lot that's out there that it's going to be interesting. But hold on, why are you so high? I'm assuming you're joking, Taurus, on why I'm so high on Boykins.
Right.
We're done with Boykins, and we're done with Chris Moore too. I see you mentioned him. Yeah,
but somebody said that Chris Moore was better than Boykin. I take Chris Moore over no one.
Yeah, Chris Moore he's a really good special teamer, and that's where it ends, because he makes zero impact offensively. Even though the only thing we can really say about Boykin is he's a heck of a blocker, we can't even say that about Chris Moore. So but honestly, if they were both gone, I'd be perfectly fine with it. I expect Boykin back, because it's only his third year and he's under contract. But Chris Moore, he's got to be gone. I mean, what does Chris Moore bring that Duvernay and Prochet aren't better at?
Well, if you need any phone numbers, he's probably the best at looking them up, right, Glenn?
Why is that?
Well, he's got 2 phone books for hands, right? And he's just getting them. He's like Edward Scissorhands with phone books. Who you need? He's probably the best at that.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah. So we are excited to keep you guys up to date with the news as it continues to come out and roll forward. Obviously, we have the draft coming up. We've talked about, and we're going to do a ton when it comes to the draft. We're going to be on here as much as we possibly can for you guys, do as much live content as we can as well. So make sure to stay up to date. Make sure to turn your subscriptions on and your notifications. Also, as the news comes out, we'll be on here as well. So make sure to stay up to date. If there's anything else that comes out as well, breaks, we'll be out there. But have a great evening or morning, wherever you're watching from. I saw a shout out from Guadalajara, Mexico. Like, that's awesome. Aquí hablamos español también. Like, that's freaking great. We appreciate the support.